Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Shreve here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, where we saw a pretty strong day on Wall Street. It wasn't strong all day, though, Ken. It looked a little iffy there in the morning, but then once we really hit our stride, gained momentum and a strong finish to the day.
Yeah, pretty strong close for the major stock indexes. We have three stocks to watch today. First will be solar. A lot of selling in the solar group today, but First Solar managed to close near highs. FSLR, Allison Transmission, a new name, but also in a strong industry group. ALSN, mid cap stock, and finally Apollo Global Management. We looked at that XLF yesterday, so let's stay in the financial sector and take a look at APO.
Okay, we'll get to a closer look at those three stocks here shortly, but first, let's take a look at the major indexes. So the Nasdaq today up 1.8% by session's close. The S&P 500 was up 1.1% today. The Dow gained 0.6% today, and the Russell 2000 up 0.25%. And you can see on the Nasdaq chart here, Ken, we are now right up to that 200-day line for the first time for the Nasdaq in many, many, many months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was definitely noteworthy that we were able to, move above that high from a little while ago, 11,571. Still have resistance to deal with here at the 200-day moving average, but we went up close to that 200-day line earlier in the session and then kind of gave it all back. But you
Right.
mentioned this, a strong close, so that's what we're looking for. And actually, on this intraday chart, you see volume picking up the pace late in the session. So it looks like overall volume on the Nasdaq is going to be pretty close to what we saw yesterday, maybe even just a little bit higher. So that's a good sign.
It is a good sign. Yeah, I mean, we didn't quite fill the gap, but that opening gap up did fade quite a bit. But it looks like we found support, intraday, kind of around the highs from a couple of days ago. But we're right up to, again, to that 200-day line. Let's look at the weekly chart. Looking like we could close this week above the 40-week line. So continuing to see improving conditions here. And speaking of weekly charts here, Ken, I think the S&P 500 for sure is worth a look at because of where it's at with this trend line going back from the highs, a very clear resistance level here. And if we close the week here, it does look like we would be breaking out of this downtrend. Doesn't mean we're out of the woods. Of course, there's going to be more hurdles, but definitely feels like we're continuing to see steps in the right direction.
I think the market character is definitely changing. On IBD Live, we've been talking about sort of expanding breadth and seeing more and more stocks participate. It's kind of interesting on such a strong up day for the Nasdaq. We didn't even get quite 2-to-1 positive on the Nasdaq, so that was a little disappointing. We had winners beat losers on both exchanges, but I think the margin was less than 2-to-1. So back to the S&P 500 on the daily chart. We still have this 4,100 level that we still need to get above. But the fact that we now have four closes in a row above the 200-day moving average, a nice move above the 4,000 level, seems maybe only a matter of time before the S&P makes a run at 4,100.
Right, and it feels like we've got a lot of the big earnings starting to come in. They'll continue to come in. I know next week is going to be a big week. You and I looked at Apple's earnings coming up next Thursday, and we've got a lot of Fed stuff happening next week. So that could either continue to help fuel the market rally or provide a little pressure. So I guess it depends on how those headlines shake out and ultimately how the market reacts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we had some pretty key economic data this morning, and it was kind of interesting to see how the market reacted to it because jobless claims fell a lot more than expected. And typically, the Fed wants to see claims rising, bad news being good news for the Fed. But the fact that claims fell didn't really do anything to make the Fed feel better about a softening labor market. That is still an issue that they're dealing with. Durable goods orders were well ahead of expectations. Gross domestic product fourth quarter was ahead of expectations, but inside that GDP report, we did get some more cooling in inflation. So that could bode well for the inflation data we'll get tomorrow in personal income and spending.
All right.
And
So
then all
more
the
to
earnings
come there.
reports that you
Oh,
mentioned.
yes.
So yeah, lots of market moving headlines
Mhm,
coming up, but we have to
mhm.
give the market the benefit of the doubt
Right.
here. The
Yeah.
character has changed, and particularly on the Nasdaq, encouraged by how the Nasdaq has come off lows
Yes.
with some volume.
Gusto.
Not really seeing that so much in the S&P 500, but with the Nasdaq,
Mhm.
definitely
Yeah.
compelling.
Yeah, great points there, Ken. Just quick looks here at the Dow and the Russell 2000. So the Dow getting back above the 50-day line or extending its gains above the 50-day line, rather getting back close to that round number at 34,000, which we can draw on back a line there. And then also IWM, which tracks the Russell 2000, early on in the session hit some resistance right around the highs from December and November. It's right up there though. So maybe backed off by the end of the day, but it's definitely heading in the right direction too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I like the technical setup of the Russell 2000 here as well. It might bide a little time here below these recent highs, but the fact that it's come off lows and it's just doing a good job holding gains, I think it's a positive.
Okay, and in terms of sectors here, a big day for energy stocks, Ken. XLE up 3.2%, so outpacing the broad market gains by quite a bit on a strong day.
Yeah, and maybe arguably a little early entry here as it kind of moves strongly above these recent highs here. So you can see volume in the ETF has been pretty dry. It picked up the pace. Today compared to prior sessions, but a good move for XLE, and I still think you got to be watching energy in this market. There's a lot of people wondering where oil should be priced above 80, below 80, but this XLE ETF is
Mhm.
showing great relative strength. And we could take a look at Chevron real quick in the Dow because that
Sure.
was a newsworthy stock today. That ended up having a really good close. They announced this huge, share
Buyback.
buyback, and they have earnings tomorrow morning. So this stock acting quite well too.
Yeah, it definitely helped fuel the gains in XLE. I will admit I did sneak in with a position when it got back above the 50-day line, and even though it took a little while for it to make progress, it never really triggered a sell signal. So, but
Patience
yeah,
is a virtue.
patience is
Yeah.
paying off. But I would agree, definitely a more definitive entry here today with this action. And moving on, let's take a look at alternative energy for solar, FSLR, bucking weakness in the solar group with a gain of 4.3% today. So continuing this bounce off of its moving averages.
Yeah, saw quite a bit of selling in other stocks in the group today, particularly Shoals Technology, SHLS, and also Array Technologies, ARRY. Pretty sharp drops, for these stocks. But interesting just to see for solar, really just rallying well all day. Their volume never came into the stock today, but this was a fairly orderly pull back down to the 50-day moving average for First Solar, and
Yep.
it's kind of sitting right just above this 173.68 pivot. So it doesn't look too stretched to me. 7% above its 10-week moving average, but still kind of floating in that 5% buy zone. So this stock still looks very strong. The issue is that it appears to be one of the kind of what we would call the lone wolf in the group.
Mm,
There's not.
yeah.
I mentioned Array and Shoals. These are not broken stocks, but First Solar is definitely the outright leader at this point in the group.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that exactly what you're saying can be further evidenced by this group rank. It's now 190 out of 197, where we saw a lot of last year. Energy Solar was one of the top ranked groups. So seeing a definite shift there underneath the surface. But you're right, this one definitely is standing out from a technical perspective. And now let's take a look at ALSN. You're right, maybe less familiar name to our audience and myself, but up over 7% so far for the week. Looks like maybe an early entry here on the weekly chart. Let's take a closer look at the daily chart. Looks like it's had a streak of some nice gains here.
Yeah, most definitely, and it's in a pretty strong industry group. A lot of stocks acting well in this group, and you've got multiple up days in a row for Allison, and volume has been pretty light, but it is just a good example of just a good base taking shape. You've got a good fundamental story here. The company they make transmissions and hybrid propulsion systems for different types of small and medium-sized trucks, and it's just a good base taking shape here. I like the look of the weekly chart. Could use a little more volume to the upside, but when you see a sort of a flat base forming, or they're calling it a cup, it looks like. But what's the pullback there? How deep
It
is
is
that?
a 9% dip.
9%, yeah. So it almost
So
looks like
yeah,
a flat, kind of a
yeah,
tight sideways flat base to me. But this is a
yeah.
stock that could still work because of pretty good fundamentals and good technical action.
Mhm,
And again, the group, it ranks in the easily in the top half of the industry
mhm.
group rankings, and several stocks. Modine is one that I've been following. It's a small cap.
Yes.
MOD has been acting well, so pretty good breadth in this group.
Okay, well, it seems like it potentially is on breakout watch. Maybe you think a handle or some tightening action from here. I mean, it's still only 4% above the 50-day line at this point.
Yeah, always a little wary just buying a stock when it's up 5, 6, 7 days in a row. You don't want to feel like you're chasing it. And
Right.
I think with Allison, I'd just kind of wait for a little pullback as it approaches that high of 45.33. It could pull back a little bit. So we'll see how it plays out. But it's looking pretty good here.
Okay, and next on the list, let's take a look at APO, Apollo Management. You mentioned us taking a look at financial related stocks or the group. So this stock up 4% today. This one did have volume behind today's move.
It did, and I don't think we can sleep on the financial stocks here. We looked at XLF yesterday, which is in a nice little setup, but Apollo is in just in a good setup here as well. Came down to the 50-day moving average, like the volume in the stock today, closed up near its highs with the market, and still in a buy zone here. So this one looks pretty good. It's an investment manager, and pretty good fundamentals and technicals as well, and a
Yeah,
nice estimate for next year too.
yes, it does. And we're 2 weeks away from earnings. So there is a little bit of time to try to get a profit cushion heading into the report. So, with that being said, Ken, maybe just a little reminder for folks out there who have stocks in their portfolio right now that have yet to report earnings this earnings season. What should we be taking stock of in our portfolios at this time?
Well, I think the most important thing is you always want to have some sort of profit cushion headed into a report, especially if you hold some top rated growth stocks that can tend to be a little more volatile than the market. So always make sure you have a profit cushion of at least 5%. That's sort of the threshold that we used when it came to United Rentals. I mean, we didn't have a huge gain in the stock on leaderboard, but we did have a profit cushion of 7 or 8%, which made it very easy to hold because we could sit through perhaps an earnings downdraft. So always try to have a profit cushion of at least 5%. If it's less than that, you might consider trimming the position headed into earnings, or if you're slightly lower, it's hard to justify holding through earnings
Mhm.
without a profit cushion.
Well, a great reminder there, and nicely done, team, on URI. United Rentals having a very strong week here with a great reaction to the earnings report that just came out. All right, everyone, that is it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, so we hope you join us, investors.com/IBD Live, for all the details on that. We will see you there tomorrow morning along with a special guest, Eric Krull. It'll be interesting to get his thoughts on what he's seeing underneath the surface in terms of individual growth stocks, perhaps in their earlier stages, as well as trends he's seeing in overall market conditions. So it'll be great to get his thoughts. We hope you all join us, and we'll see you there and see you right back here tomorrow after the close. Bye now.